Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here at IBC and for being in the session with us. Today, we're going to talk about not just new ways of engaging audiences, but new necessary ways of engaging audiences as our audiences change, especially in consuming things like sport. Millennials and younger generations, frankly, watch less sport than those of us who are older and really want to consume it in a different way. They have a different need for their media consumption. And so we have three fabulous speakers who have really brought some innovation to the way that we are bringing media to a younger generation on the devices they want, using machine learning and such to give the bespoke experience that's now, frankly, expected by a lot of individuals.
Hi, thank you, everybody. My name is Damien Read. I am the SVP of Data for a company called 24i. Early this year, I was actually in my own company called The Filter, and we were lucky to be acquired by 24i in April this year. We just do on-screen personalization and recommendation. So we put many customer touch points. We put exactly the right content in front of users. It's almost table stakes these days to make sure that when you first engage with a screen or you see some marketing, the content you love is at the top. And we have a bunch of clever data science guys and data engineers who run all that process to make sure you get your content in the right place. It particularly works for sports. In a previous life, I was running Now TV's sports product. Now TV is part of Sky in the UK. It's their OTT service. They have a range of really premium sports content. And we had a problem. People were coming onto the service, they're watching one or two items of sports, and then they wouldn't come back. And this is where my passion for personalization and recommendation really started. We did some very simple personalization. We knew if you'd been on the service 2 times and you'd watched a Liverpool football match, you were probably a Liverpool fan. So we would send an email out an hour before the next Liverpool match saying, Liverpool are on, would you like to engage with the service? You went to the app or the TV experience, and there was the Liverpool match right at the top. It was very simple recommendations, but I can't tell you the effect it had on usage and in content engagement. We also linked that to churn, which is really important for our subscription service. So at Now TV, we found that people watch 3 or more items of content in any month. Their churn profile was very low. Below that 3 items, they're starting to question value for money. They're starting to question, is it a good service? So we really focus on getting them over that 3 barrier. And personalization was absolutely critical to that whole experience. So here's a great example. I am a really passionate cricket fan. I love cricket. I watch it all the time. I know it's a bit weird in Holland. Holland does have actually quite a good cricket team. It's just not very well known. I also subscribe to Amazon. I'm an Amazon Prime user. But I had no idea there was a really good documentary on there from a guy called Ben Stokes, who's a very famous cricketer. And I went onto my Amazon Prime service to order something, and there was a recommendation for this product. I'm like, I've got to watch this. I've got access to it. I went and watched it. It was a great documentary. It wasn't really about the cricket. It was more about the person. But actually, my passion and my enjoyment of Amazon went up because of that one show. So all I had to do is put that one show in my journey, and immediately I was passionate about it. And you can see the power. I'd never heard of this show, whereas they knew I liked cricket, and they knew that to put this show in my journey. It was a great customer experience. Here also, we work through a lot of different user cases. And here's an example from the US of a potential client we're working with. So, you're turning on a multi-sport service. You've got to make sure that the right content is in front of the right user at the right time. So on the left here, you've got someone who's a big Pacers fan. They want to see everything to do with Pacers. They don't want any other content in there at all. Just dominate their home screen with that service. But then you've got a different cluster who likes to watch a little bit of everything, and they don't want a whole Pacers screen. So you put that little bit of content in front of that. And we get to learn that. We have all the user data you could possibly want from these customers. We can segment them, we can learn them. And in fact, we go one level deeper in this. We actually hyper-personalize for each individual customer. On the right-hand side, you've got a particularly strong customer that likes Atlanta Falcons, everything to do with Atlanta. And we also personalize their screen. And you'll see how different all those experiences are, but they're actually driven off the same bedrock. They're driven off the same, customer data and customer experience, customer content. We just personalize it for each individual user. I'm just talking about screens here and user interfaces. Don't forget marketing personalization. Marketing personalization is really, really important. The title of this talk was content engagement, but also getting new audiences in. This is a great way to get new audiences in. We integrate our recommendation engine, not just into user interfaces, but also into all the email systems, social media trends. If somebody is a particular sports fan, when they engage, you've got to market to them the right content at the right time. It's really obvious. Some of the clever stuff you can do with marketing is all about time as well, particularly in sports. Someone watches sports 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. That is when you market to them, particularly with the sports they love. And there's some really amazing KPIs with some of the stuff we've done around sports marketing.
So, Damien, with all of this, I start thinking about if I'm watching something and my kids were watching something, the marketing to me, the personalization level that we're trying to reach now is far beyond, I think, anything we would have even considered 5 years ago. How do you then embrace that, not just to bring in new audiences of younger viewers, but new audiences of, I'll hate to say it, slightly more mature viewers that maybe also could benefit from this kind of content?
Yeah. The answer is kind of the same for all audiences, although there's subtle differences. So I think it's a universal truism. You put the right content in front of anybody, whatever age they may be, and they will engage with it. You've just got to work out what that right content is for you and what that right content is for your kids at a different time. There are some subtleties with younger audiences. We find they tend to want short-form content a lot more, and they are actually even more intolerant of putting other stuff on their journey. So they want to get to the right content even quicker than you and I would, and they want short-form content as well. So I still believe there is a massive audience for sports, both young and old. But if you're a Pacers fan and you're a young Pacers fan, you do not want to see anything else on there. You want to get straight to that. You want some short form content. And you also want to see marketing in channels that are relevant for you. So less email, to be frank, more social, more TikTok, more stuff like that.
So I thought a combination, I was thinking you were talking about emailing them before the match began, and seeing that come up. I was also intrigued if they watched it, they didn't watch it, how much fun it would be to grab something, the great play that they all missed.
Yeah,
and be able to push it backwards in marketing.
Yeah.
And this is why you have the subscription service, because we're looking out for you when whatever kept you away from watching is there.
One thing we see in sports is there's the live show. Live dominates, of course, very important, but there's a lot of short form stuff, and people have their main sport and their main event and their main team, but they might want to watch some highlights from another team that's close to them in the league, or they tend to have other sports they kind of like but don't, they're not passionate about, and that's when your short form stuff comes in, highlights. There's a couple of sports I could mention where I love watching just the highlights. I'll never watch the full 3 hours. Just give me the 5-10 minutes highlight, the best bits, and that's when the two work very well. And again, especially for younger generation, it's amplified with that audience.
Generationally, do you think some of that's going to change? Because I think about how if I look at a survey that SMPTE puts out, I can actually see my older generation is less likely to fill out a survey than my younger generation, who's been given a survey about every life experience they've ever had. Do you see this changing?
It's a great question. We obviously, in personalization, using data, you have to take it very, very seriously. So the overarching message is make sure you explain to people what their data is being used for, and treat it in a way that you don't identify individuals. So that's an overarching principle that we have to. Our business wouldn't exist unless we are absolutely squeaky clean on that. Whether we've seen a difference with younger or older generation, I don't know, actually. You know why I don't know? Because our data is anonymized. So we never see how old people are. We just see them as users. So I can't actually answer that question. From anecdotal experience of talking to clients, absolutely. You've got to be really clear on what you're using data for everybody. They haven't told me it varies by different demographics or age in particular. In fact, older people are as worried about their data as younger, as from what I've heard. But it's a great question. I should ask that a bit more.
How we have shared stories, be it the story of a sport match that has a beginning and an end, or a serial drama, or even streaming a live concert from somewhere. this has got to change to the expectations of a new audience that really consumes things in a different way. 5 years from now, where are we going to be in your world?
The 5-year vision is absolutely around increased personalization, increased experience. How do people want to consume the whole end-to-end experience? So right from the moment they're marketed to, and you said the story is also really important. Some people respond to different stories. At Now TV, we did a great test where there was a rival football match where it was 2-2 at half time. And we thought, God, everyone wants to know about this. It's 2-2, it's a great match. And so we emailed out to the sort of the peripheral fans, hey, this match is 2-2. And that worked incredible. People just dived into the content and extending that whole journey, not just in the content, what you're watching, the marketing, but into the whole consumer experience actually on screen. I think that's the direction for personalization in 5 years. Absolutely.
I look forward to meeting back here in 5 years, maybe even less, to continue the conversation.